Did you wake up and realize what was wrong with the world? Is that there are too many people giving too many people the breaks and excuses that lazy people use to justify their failures. That ultimately leads to a world that exists in denial of itself, refusing to accept responsibility for their actions. Shit show that we live in today, and ruled over by the opportunists who took advantage of that same weakness in order to gain leverage over people with actual skills, and have since driven our world's economy and ecosystem to the point of global extinction. Are you Russian and come from the offspring of the communist forefathers who strove to free themselves from the elite monopoly of the bourgeoisie nobles, only to look back and realize you've handed the world to the exact same oppression your forefathers tried to free Russia from in the first place, with basically a bow tie attached? Does your people's ancestral roots come from what fairy tales and mythology would refer to as the cannibalistic, everything tastes good if you cook it in a stew first, Shrek lookalikes, and still do, they once called ogres? Is your name Vladimir Putin? Well, don't despair and end up with that Gorbachev's hairstyle, cause here at Hell Incorporated, we have the tonic that'll make you feel like a man for once. With this semi-environmentally safe, concealable automated response lapel. It's built in with a pre-programmed mock scenario of the criminally infamous and popular rooster fighting display that ejects your prized cock out and slaps the shit out of whoever you are facing. Yes, it's the patented cock slapper. Perfect for those Geneva summits when your translator misquotes what you were saying and made you sound like a jackass high on drugs that is laughed about in jokes 2 decades later. Or for those moments when Iran says something cheeky in your own language, but muffled it thinking you wouldn't hear. Just pull the rooster's ring and watch that sucker come flying out ready to give you some Christmas cheer by lighting those cheeks nice and rosy like. Act now and get this commemorative Osama bin Laden picture coffee mug with a before and after image of his assassination, a subject you would not know anything about, correct? It just makes a good paperweight, right? Order now while supplies last. Operators are standing by. And though I'm not anonymous the cyber terrorist, I think I should apply for the position, cause man I've been busy lately. But in all honesty, I would love the chance for Putin to fly over here in his Black Hawks, take off that presidential name tag, and I'll step up and toss off that American ID and citizenship, so I can whip his ass like any human having to live in the global climate change we are facing today should. And if that doesn't piss him off, then maybe these nude pictures his wife sent me will. Ha ha. Ha. That's good shit right there.
Okay, to accomplish this task I must lay out the defining difference in the laws of physics between our realm and the astral realm. For one, as I remember it, a major difference between our universe and theirs is the depth of color in everything. There was color, but it wasn't as defined. Another thing is death. In the astral realm I remember there was a process to death branching into multiple options. With our universe there are 4 fundamental properties that hold the 4 corners of the universe together. In the astral realm there are 3 fundamental properties: spiritual, mental and astral. Together they merge to create the physical. 2 forces dictate the formation of the physical, that is emotional and elemental. However, here there are 4 fundamental properties: mental, physical, spiritual and astral. Together they merge to create the fabric of the life energy, essence. The forces that dictate the formation of the physical is electrical, gravitational and temporal spectrum resonance. I cannot be sure of the fundamental laws of the next universe because it is beyond my ability to conceive. I'm not sure of the accuracy of this, so I shall simply lead him towards the key to surviving across the end of his realm and into the next lies in understanding the weave of light and what ties it together to give it form, and how to traverse the vortex of oblivion that will form near the end of the Bifrost. I can use my life force signature that was once his to open a mental link between us and transfer the memories of what I need to enlighten him of, and the video of oblivion should be able to be transferred as a vision. Once again, this will have to be a highly protected religious document, as I will include a coveted secret that only I and a select few demons know of that allow us to maneuver outside of God's ability to track us and act outside of his design, freeing us of the control of the grand design, true free will. Once again, however, this endeavor only leads to my being here on earth at the end of days. Damn it. You see, time can never be truly changed. Your efforts only fuel that which was meant to occur. At least I know what I'm doing here now, my ulterior purpose, and that is to locate God, access his situation and retrieve him from the void if he, as in Jesus, is there. Not the false, glorified Jesus the world has come to know, but the real Jesus. Once retrieved, I will sit down and house his spirit, as I was designed to be capable of, and perform a Kundalini mantra so that the Spirit of God will remember all his moments of existence at once. I just must remember to look away upon his origins and see not his face, so that I do not become a risk to existence.
But why so many in some catastrophes? It may be asked. A principle is not affected by the number involved. If we can see justice in the death of one person, we can see justice in the death of 100. It is simply class instruction. People of a kind have been drawn together. Those who study the occult laws that shape human destiny may learn to use them for their rapid progress and for ensuring a comfortable, as well as a spiritually profitable, life journey. But before we can work successfully within the law, we must know that the law really exists. Most, page 269. People seem either to believe there is no law that will certainly bring them the results of their evil thoughts and acts, or that, if there is such a law, they can in some way dodge it and escape the consequences of its violation, and so we see them pass through life always doing the selfish thing or the thoughtless thing. They falsify facts, they harbor evil thoughts, they engage in gossip, they have their enemies and hate them, they scheme to bring discomfort and humiliation upon those whom they dislike. And then, when the harvest from this misdirected energy is ripe and they are misled by the falsehoods of others to their loss and injury, when they fall into the company of cheats and are swindled, when a false story is started about them, when, through no fault of the moment, they are plunged into grief, they merely call it so much bad luck and go blindly on with their generation of wrong forces that will, in due time, bring them another enforced reaping of pain. Law of action and reaction. The existence and operation of this law of cause and effect are set forth repeatedly in the Christian scriptures. With what measure you mete it to others it shall be measured to you, is certainly explicit. In Proverbs 26:27, we have this definite declaration: whoso diggeth a pit shall fall, therein, and he that rolleth a stone, it shall return upon him. Of course the language is figurative. No writer of common sense would assert that every time a workman digs a pit he shall tumble into it, nor that whenever anybody rolls a stone it will roll back upon him. We dig pits in the moral world whenever we injure another with a false story, whether we originate it or merely repeat it, and into such a pit we shall ourselves fall, in the reaction of the law. We loosen and set rolling the stones of envy and hatred, and they shall return to crush us down to failure and humiliation in the reactions that follow. We have ignorantly generated evil forces under the law when we could have used it for our success and happiness. Judge not, that ye be not judged, is another statement of the law of action and reaction. It is not an assertion that we should not judge because we are not qualified, nor because we may ignorantly wrong another with such judgment. It is an explicit statement that the consequence of judging others is that we, in turn, shall be judged. If we criticize, we shall be criticized. If we condemn others for their faults and failures, we shall be condemned. If we are broad and tolerant and remain silent about the frailties of others, we shall be tolerantly regarded. All of us who have studied the subject find in page 271, our daily lives the evidence of the truth of such biblical declarations. We know perfectly well that anger provokes anger and that conciliation wins concessions, while retaliation keeps a feud alive. We know that retort calls out retort, while silence restores the peace. In these little things it is usually within the power of either party to the trouble to have peace instead of turmoil, just a matter of self-control. But in the larger events it is not always so. They are not invariably within our immediate control because they are often the results of causes generated in the past which we can no longer modify, and this brings us to a wider view of this law of cause and effect. The moment we get away from the narrow view that we began existence when we were born, most of the mysteries about us disappear and we can fall back on natural law and logically explain everything. Why does one person begin life with a good mind while another is born with small mental capacity? Because one worked hard at life's problems in past incarnations while the other led a butterfly existence and merely amused himself? Why does one move serenely through trying circumstances, always maintaining a cheerful view of life, while another loses control of his temper at the slightest annoyance and wears himself out with trifling vexations? Only because one has for a long period practiced self-control while the other has never given a moment to the matter. Why is one so thoughtful of others that he wins universal love and admiration, while another is so self-centered that he makes no true friends at all? Again, past experience explains it. The one has studied the laws of destiny and, page 275, lived by them, while the other has not yet even learned of their existence. If we put aside the old belief that the soul is created at birth, and keep in mind the more scientific view that we have all lived many lives before, we shall no longer be puzzled because we find in a man's life some good fortune when he has apparently done nothing to deserve it, for we see that he must, in a previous life, have set in motion the forces which now culminate in this result. We are no longer mystified when apparently causeless misfortunes befall him, for we know that in the nature of things he did generate the causes in the past. A single incarnation has the same relation to the whole of the soul's evolution that a single day has to one lifetime. As the days are separated by the nights and yet all the days are related by the acts which run through them, so the incarnations are separated by periods of rest in the heaven world and yet all the incarnations are related by the thoughts and acts that bind them together. What we did yesterday modifies the events of today, and what we did in our last incarnation is affecting the present life. The one fact is no more remarkable than the other. As we mold old age by youth, so we are shaping the coming incarnation by this one. Chapter 10, Superficial Evolution. All of us who have studied the subject find in our daily lives the evidence of the truth of such biblical declarations. We know perfectly well that anger provokes anger and that conciliation wins concessions, while retaliation keeps a feud alive. We know that retort calls out retort, while silence restores the peace. In these little things it is usually within the power of either party to the trouble to have peace instead of turmoil, just a matter of self-control. Consider a specific thing like deformity. We can readily understand one of the causes that may have brought it about. If in a past life a person was guilty of deliberate cruelty to another, and on account of it suffered great mental and emotional distress afterward, it would be no remarkable thing if the mental images of the injuries inflicted on his victim are reproduced in himself. In idiocy we have apparently merely a distorted brain so that the soul cannot function through it. Might not that distortion of the physical brain easily be the result of violent emotional reaction from cruelties in a past life? The soul that can be guilty of cruelty is seeing things in distorted fashion, out of proportion. This distortion of consciousness must register a corresponding distortion in matter, for the body is the faithful and accurate reflection of that consciousness. It is precisely because the body is the true and exact expression of the consciousness in physical matter that the palmist and phrenologist can sometimes give us such remarkable delineations of character. The record is there in hand and head for those who are clever enough to accurately read it. This broader outlook on the life journey, extending over a very long series of incarnations, gives us a wholly different view of the difficulties with which we have to contend and of the limitations which afflict us. It at once shows us that in the midst of apparent injustice there is, in the long run, really nothing but perfect justice for everybody, that all good fortune has been earned, that all bad fortune is deserved, and that each of us is, mentally and morally, what he has made himself.